The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Wow, yeah, hello, welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it's Friday, and we've got somebody missing over here. I don't know, there's a microphone, but I guess Carlos is MIA.
I guess he is.
I almost was. But we have a lot to talk about today, and when don't we have a lot to talk about? But what we're gonna, I don't know, CJ, we got any cleanups? Here's Carlos, the man, the legend. Okay, he's here.
Well, let's start out with this little story about our friend Martin Shkrell, whatever his name is.
Or as I like to refer to him as the drug thug.
The drug thug, right. Well, he got arrested, as you know, this week. And
couldn't happen to a nicer person.
I know. Well, on December 17th, which was yesterday, the New Yorker, you know, a reputable news source, reporter Andy Borowitz, and I'll give you a little bit of background on Andy Borowitz before I get into this. Not only has been a reporter for the New Yorker since 1999, he's also a comedian. So all of his stories that he does have a kind of comic sense to them. But Mr. Shkrell, or however they pronounce his name, was arrested for fraud. He runs all his companies like a Ponzi scheme, according to the SEC. And Mr. Shkrell was informed by his attorney that he's raising his hourly legal fee by 5,000%. The lawyer has confirmed that he did raise the fees 5,000%. Minutes after the arrest on charges of securities fraud, the attorney, Harlan Doranson, announced he was hiking fees from $1,200 an hour to $60,000 an hour.
Well, I guess you're practicing law in the wrong place.
I think so.
You know, $12,000. We complain when we see lawyers charging $300 or $400 an hour.
Well, Shkrell was reportedly received the news about the price hike while he was being fingerprinted, cried foul, and accused his attorney of outrageous and humane price gouging. Isn't that the pot calling the kettle black?
Oh boy, is it? And then what's his next quote? This is the behavior of a sociopath. Well, guess what? You're talking about yourself. You're projecting. I hate to tell you this, Shkrell, or whatever that, you know. But you know, this is what you call. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, this guy should be thrown in jail. They should have taken his company. The government should have taken his company. Any man who raises the fees of a cancer drug the way he did, that had been basically a fixed price for a very long time, and now he's just done it with another drug that, you know, he's raised it, 5,000, 10,000% for people who are sick and dying. This man does not even deserve to walk the earth, as far as I'm concerned, because this guy, talk about a sociopath, you know, and isn't it tough when it happens to you? Isn't turnabout fair play? Look how he's whining like a little child.
But you know, I think it's funny because his lawyer turned around and said that he was unmoved by his client's complaint compared to what he pays for an hour of the Wu-Tang Clan. 60,000 is a bargain. And even after the arrest, the FBI joked about the fact that they couldn't take the Wu-Tang Clan stuff. So, you know, this guy's now just made himself, his company, and everything else look like a huge joke.
But not only that, this again is an example of how government allows these things to happen. The pharmaceutical companies are allowed to sell Americans drugs at the highest price they charge in the world. That's just wrong. It's morally wrong, and it should be legally wrong. And our representatives in Washington are too busy taking money from the pharmaceutical companies, and they don't care what they do to us. And we've talked about this before, but here's a classic example. And now this guy, he's whining. There's a man who is such a sociopath, he doesn't care that the first drug he did it with, the cancer drug, there are people who had to basically die and not have a chance of living because of this piece of human refuse. I don't even know, I can't say on the air what I think of him because it would be we don't have the bleep button yet. So,
yeah.
But it's just, but this is a symptom, because remember, he's allowed to do what he did under the law. They had to get him on, it was like Al Capone when they got Al Capone on tax evasion. He murdered half of Chicago and they couldn't get anybody to testify against him, so they had to get him on tax evasion. So they had to get this guy on the Ponzi scheme, rather than the fact that what he was doing was morally, obviously, so objectionable it's incomprehensible. But the fact is that it should be illegal. The government, as soon as he did that to that cancer drug, they should have forfeited his company. They should have taken it over and done something about it. And this is what really aggravates me about government, because they don't care about the average person.
And now is the charges, what he's going to be charged with?
He's being charged with securities frauds.
Securities frauds, which
He could be out.
Yeah,
Well, it doesn't matter. They got him on something.
Yeah.
And with a lawyer that's going to charge him $60,000 an hour, I don't think his drug is going to really be
and and I just hope the judge has a friend who was subject to what these price gouging, and he doesn't send them to a federal
resort?
Resort, yeah, a federal resort. I'd like to see him stuck in Rahway State Prison, because I'd love to see what he looks like after 6 months in Rahway in General Pop.
Well, it's interesting. Before the show, I had a conversation with Kathy Ann Viveris, our city administrator, because the Community Energy Aggregation Program, I checked with my tenants. None of them had received a letter saying that they were going to be automatically enrolled. And I checked with my letter carriers and a few other sources throughout the city, and it seems that anywhere from 25 to 1/3 of the National Grid customers who are supplied their electricity from National Grid may not have received this letter. And so you have to call in if you want to opt in to get the new rate. Well, the thing is, the people of Fall River don't know that. They are under the assumption, based upon what they have been told by the city and by the powers that be, that they're going to be automatically enrolled. If you did not get a letter to opt out, you will not be automatically enrolled. I spoke with Con Ed. Con Ed, which is the company which will be your new supplier under the Community Energy Aggregation Program, has said that these people need to call in to be enrolled in this program if they did not receive a letter. They could only do what, and we did the buck passing thing, we can only do what National Grid provided us. And then you look at the fact that National Grid said we provided everything, so the city messed it up. And the city said we had nothing to do with it, it's National Grid. So nobody knows who's doing what, but I spoke with Kathy Ann at length, and Kathy Ann said that they're going to see if they can get a press release out to tell people who did not receive a letter to please, if they want to enroll in the new program, to call in and they can opt in. Now, with 11,000 new applications for energy assistance in Fall River, that tells you how well our economy is doing. When people enroll in this, the discount on the energy provision applies to them, and then they'll get another discount from National Grid on the distributor side. And that will be a 25% discount on the distributor costs if they qualify for low-income home energy assistance program. So I wanted to provide that to people, and I'm hoping that the mayor's office comes up with that press release sometime today, and we'll try to get that information out to you. I also made 2 phone calls this morning to Ken Pacheco, our Department of Community Maintenance department head, I got his voicemail and it's full. You can't leave a message, so I sent him a text message. He called me back when I was on the phone with Kathy Ann, so we're playing phone tag. But this came up because of our local tipsters, and we know we have them all over Fall River, which people are not happy about. And the fact that grants were awarded in Massachusetts for recycling and waste reduction, more specifically in Fall River for mattress recycling. And as we know, DCM, and I have to say it this way now because these are the people that are left over. So DCM, Linda Pereira, Ray Mitchell, Jasiel Correia, all voted in the affirmative, and Steve Long, all voted in the affirmative to raise the fee to pick up mattresses, okay, to $20 a mattress. Meanwhile, according to the information I have here, the city of Fall River, in their mattress recycling incentive, and I'm gonna explain that in 1 second, they received $61,700. But it still required us to raise the fee to $20 because of the cost associated with getting rid of them. Now, the reason why it's calling an incentive is because the city did not receive the cash. The Mattress Recycling Initiative provides access to Mass Department of Environmental Protection funded program for the transportation and recycling of discarded household mattresses. No funds will be provided directly to the municipality. The amount awarded represents the approximate value of the grant over 2 years. Now, what this means is, according to the information, which I also provided to both my co-hosts, under Section 2 of Mass DEP's grant, this item gives them access to state contracted recyclers, mattress recyclers. And we just have to get the mattresses to them under the provision. So maybe the $20 increase is to pay for transportation, I'm not sure. But what's really interesting is...
I doubt seriously if that's true.
Oh, I know, but again, and this grant also applies to carpets, believe it or not. It's a carpet and mattress processing cost will be paid directly to the DEP assigned recycler.
And wait just 1 minute, and,
Yeah.
let me read what else it applies to. And let me, and actually I was speaking to our 2 state reps, and I asked them what, about this. And actually I had a copy of this on my phone, and I showed it to them because they weren't even aware of the amount. And if you take that amount, that's 3,085 mattresses. So that's about 8 mattresses a day. And I don't think we get anywhere near that amount. And they probably weren't aware of this grant. But it also covers the town of Grafton. Listen to this, everybody, because we just spent almost $1 million. Wheeled recycling carts.
$98,000.
So we could have reduced the suffering on the residential taxpayer again. Just as with the mattresses, was there a need to elevate this fee to $20 when we've got a grant to get rid of these mattresses, and it may actually cost nothing to get? I'd like to know the number, and when we get a hold of Kenny, I want to know how many mattresses they actually got over the past year. And I want to know how much money they figure they're going to make, and why this grant has not been announced. Because if there's a grant that'll give them political traction, they call a press conference immediately. But when there's a grant that now gives them money to do something they're charging the taxpayer for,
we don't talk about it.
So they can get the money from the taxpayer and get subsidized by the state too, we don't hear about it. And that really, really bothers me. So, Linda, you like to talk a lot. So, you passed that fee, you elevated that fee. I want to see the city council, the new city council, led by you. I want to see you call the DCM in front of the council, tell them to look at these numbers, look at how much we're going to save, and look at reducing the fee for the people of Fall River. it's about time that we actually do share some sacrifice. And instead of dumping it all on the residential taxpayer, it is unconscionable what you people do. You're getting 61 grand, almost $62,000. How much does it cost you to get rid of mattresses? How many mattresses do you get rid of? I'd like to see all those numbers. And as a city council, you should demand all those numbers, because you're supposed to be representing us. And instead of piling more and more elevated fees and more taxes that you don't call taxes, and then say it's a shared burden, start representing our interests. We've got the proof. We broke it. I got the call on this, and I got this copy on my phone from Mr. Anonymous. CJ immediately began to research the grant, and we're telling you about this today. And
We don't waste time.
And I just told the 2 state reps that just did their program, I just questioned them on it, and of course they're going to check into it. And it may be this, and it may be to supplement. I said, no, it's an incentive program. It's a new incentive normally means it's something new.
That's
because
right.
they're creating an incentive. The word incentive, so apparently our legislators don't actually realize that. And there's a little asterisk, so
I mean,
we look at this stuff, and we look at this, the city is getting money, and they may be able to actually, like, not have any costs associated with mattresses any longer, or very minimal costs, but they just increase the fee. So let's at least decrease the damn fee. Carlos?
and I mean, it's a few things that I'm seeing in here. We got the second most grant here, because we are right above a town that got 98,000. And we got 61, so we are the second one.
Yeah.
In 26 cities and towns.
Yeah, I think we actually got the highest for mattress recycling,
mattress maybe,
because
yeah.
we're also the largest city on this list. A lot of these are towns.
Actually, I have the list, the complete list, but it would have taken up too much
Yeah.
time to go through the whole thing. But I have the complete list of the grant awards that were effective in November of 2015. If you look at the other list that I provided, you will see that in September, they were actually projected to receive, City of Fall River, $68,000, okay, in the Sustainable Materials Recovery Program. That's the program in general. So, and that was as of 2015, September 2015. Now, this is the thing that happens in Fall River. We don't, and Chip knows this firsthand, because he had an argument when he was a union president about them taking firefighters off because they didn't have the money. And Chip sat down and went through the entire budget line by line, and he found more than enough money that they didn't include in the budget that they had. So this is what happens at Fall River. We get the money, but we don't tell anybody, because if we tell anybody, we're not going to be able to raise the taxes. We're not going to be able to raise the fees, because this money is one time. So we want to make sure we're planning accordingly. The problem that we have in Fall River is that we don't plan accordingly. We are always behind the 8 ball. And that's kind of the sad situation we're in. And and I'm so tired of being told we're so negative. Even Rick Oliveira today turned around and said, Fall River is all about conspiracy theories. We had people coming out there talking about the Amazon land deal and that. Hey, you know what? Why? Because we tell the truth? Because we're telling people the truth? Okay? They're upset that, Meg Mayo-Brown's going and da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah,
and then and now here's what kills me. And again, this is unconfirmed and I can't confirm it, so I'm not going to say this is a confirmed fact. But numerous people last night at the AHA event, which I must say, kudos to the AHA committee. It was a good event last night. Yeah. Came up to me and said, did you hear that Bobby Karam said on WSAR that Jasiel called Meg Mayo-Brown and said, pack your bags, you're gone? I'm like, did somebody listen to me singing the song? But, again, these are all unconfirmed. Jasiel was there and he didn't confirm or deny that he said that to her. I really didn't have an opportunity to talk to him about it because there were so many people around. And he had to get over to his $125 a ticket fundraiser out at the Venus de Milo because, according to OCPF reports, his campaign account had $0 at the end of the campaign, and he's still got bills to pay. So, and hey, this happens in campaigns. This isn't something that's like breaking news and, oh my God, the campaign's broke. How many times we've heard that from presidential candidates and everything else where they have no money, then they have this huge fundraiser and they make it. But, if Jasiel turned around and called her from Paris or from wherever he may have been, I mean, Rick Oliver went so far as to say, hey, I want to see the passport. I want to see the tickets. Okay, I want to know where you were born. Give me a birth certificate. He was joking, saying some of that jokingly, but this is what happens, okay? When the truth is told, you're negative. I mean, even today at the end of the show that preceded us in taping, and obviously we're live, as one of the individuals is leaving, who said the same thing to me last night prior to kicking me in the backside, which was jokingly done, don't get me wrong, but nonetheless, it was kind of making a statement. Positivity. All I want is positivity. I won't want anything negative. I don't want it negative. You know what? Just because it's a fact doesn't mean it's negative. And I'm tired of beating this dead horse. Honestly, it gets to be ridiculous.
Well, fortunately, the people are beginning to realize that because, as we always said, one man's meat's another man's poison, one man's terrorist is another man's patriot. And, the people who fought the Revolutionary War were considered terrorists by the British. And we were considered, the people of the United States that were rebelling against the government were considered terrorists, as were Menachem Begin and the Jewish state when they were beginning to try to get their own state of Israel. They were looked upon as terrorists. And, it's in the eye of the beholder, but what bothers me most about these things is that, you can disagree with us. I don't have a problem. But don't try to refute facts by trying to label people and not address the facts. If we show you a paper with a number on it that we didn't generate, we didn't make up the number from a reliable organization as we did with the healthcare numbers, it's not negative, it's not positive, it's fact. It's a fact. Just as the fact is that we have a document generated by the state of Massachusetts that says Fall River got $61,700 for mattress recycling incentive. I mean, you can say that everybody who was against Meg Mayo-Brown had an axe to grind. And in that particular case, it's a characterization. I think it's flawed because anybody that doesn't agree with who you want is negative and has an axe to grind. Well, maybe you had a butt to kiss, and that's why you were for her. So we can characterize it any other way. The way I look at it is I look at Meg Mayo-Brown's tenure as the superintendent of schools. I look at children walking out of schools, small children being lost during the school day when we have COOs, CFOs. We have one of the highest ratios of administrators.
Don't forget the
ABCs, whatever. Yeah, we have one of the highest rates of administrators to teachers, and nobody can take attendance. Kids walk out of schools. We have all the issues we've had that occurred in the public schools. How many times? Now we just had the issue with Cam. I mean, these things are not, and if you're a person who thinks 41% is okay, if you think the stats that we presented, there's no axe to grind on those facts. They're facts. When they say at schools a level 2 or a level 3 or a level 4 and we're not meeting the standards, and then the superintendent says, well, we are performing better than 41% of the schools. As I said, show me an exam that you can get a 41% on and say you passed. So if you're happy with that level of performance, there's nothing I can say to you. There's nothing I can debate you on because obviously you know, your bar is set so low that we might as well hire somebody with a high school diploma to run a school system. So, I mean, but let's not try to cloud the issues with propaganda, and that's what we're hearing. You know, WSAR is like Radio Pravda in Russia. You know, all they do is spew, the party line, and there are no axes to grind when we state facts. If it's a personal opinion, it's a personal opinion. My personal opinion is I don't think Meg Mayo-Brown was a good superintendent of schools, and I made that decision not based on my like or dislike for her personally, but by looking at the school system and looking at where it's going and where it's been. We had a better school system when we had more students, more teachers, and less administrators, and our performance is abysmal. So therefore, in my opinion, I'm glad to see it go. But please, stop. If you want to make these labels and axes to grind and butts to kiss, and I don't care. If it's on an opinion, you can disagree, agree. But when we do stuff like this and show it to the camera, and we've got documentation, it's not an opinion. It's not an axe to grind. This is what you make decisions on. You know,
not in Fall River, we don't.
When you're hiring people to work, you look at their resume. If the person said they got a PhD and you find out they got an 8th grade education, you don't hire them. You have to base it on something. You base a job like a superintendent of schools on performance. She's been there. We have performance evaluations. And so stop with the BS trying to muddy the water by turning this into, oh, if you don't like Meg Mayo-Brown, there's something wrong with you. Well, I don't care about Meg Mayo-Brown one way or the other. I probably have difficulty identifying her in a lineup. I got a pretty good idea what she looks like, but the reality is I don't deal that much with the school department. But I look at the numbers, and I'm not happy, and I'm glad she's gone. Bye, Meg.
Well, it's interesting because on my way in this morning, I actually stopped and picked up a bagel with cream cheese to have for breakfast before the show. And I found in New York Bagel Ed Kostar and Melissa Panchley sitting down at a table having a conversation. So initially, Ed didn't acknowledge me when I walked into the restaurant, and I walked over to the counter and placed my order. And I looked back, and I was listening to the conversation and got bits and pieces of it. So I finally texted Ed, and I said, hope she's not trying to have you go over to the dark side. I think Star Wars time,
Oh, jeez.
So Ed sent me a text saying, we aired our disagreements and got everything on the table. Nobody changed opinions. But in my business, I prefer honesty to people who say one thing privately and another thing publicly. I texted back, agreed. So you know what? I guess the school committee is starting to get a little nervous because maybe Melissa's not going to have the power and authority she thought she was going to have. Maybe Mont Costa's not going to have it. When you've got 4 people who pretty much are in lockstep with each other, I'm hoping, and we'll see when the new school committee takes place. But we might be able to see a change, an effective change in the Fall River School Department. But it's very interesting, and I got some news today about next week and the week after, and we're going to have to talk about that some more in production, so we can figure out what we're going to do. But there's only 7 days, people, till Christmas. We have a show next Monday. We have one next Wednesday. There will not be a show on Christmas Day. Although I tried to pry Chip out of his house.
Stay angry, and let's eliminate or reduce the mattress fee. Let's have a complete examination of this grant.
I agree. And hey, have a great weekend, everybody, and don't get caught up in the holiday hate, as they like to call it. And Carlos, I had a great time with you last night.
Thank you.
Let me see your stuff. No.